Supporters of casinos in Massachusetts are hoping for new jobs and new state revenue that can be shared with cities and towns. That goes for the proposal to develop a casino resort complex on the border of East Boston and Revere at Suffolk Downs. But the casino would need approval by the local community, and the community has questions about the effect on quality of life, traffic, and local businesses. Our guest represents some of those businesses in her role as president of the East Boston Board of Trade. We'd like to welcome Diane Modica. Thank you very much for being with us, Diane.
Thank you, Chris. Great to be here.
I know you also have the perspective of a former district city councilor and a licensing official in the city, so you looked at different angles here. How do you feel about this so far?
Well, the East Boston Chamber of Commerce has gone on record in support of the concept of a casino at Suffolk Downs. Obviously with the caveat that we want to make sure that our local businesses are protected and also that they derive the benefits from the proposed prosperity of this particular project. And of course, as an East Boston resident, I want to make sure that my community stays intact and that, if anything, it benefits greatly from the presence of a casino resort.
One thing we've been hearing more than once from the opponents is that this is going to hurt the kind of businesses, a lot of the restaurants, for example, and some of them have been there for quite a while in East Boston, because people can go to the casino and get some free eats and drinks.
Well, I know that's been a claim on the part of the opponents, and I believe that is going to be adequately addressed, because this is a major game-changing project in East Boston. That is definitely, for certain. But on the other hand, it's a great opportunity for building local economic development. I mean, the casino itself will offer opportunities for local business because they're going to be looking for vendors to provide goods and services to the casino. I mean, it's a major operation. It's not just the casino and the gaming facility, but it's also 2 hotels, an entertainment venue, retail stores, and the luxury day spa, as well as the racetrack, which will remain. So we're looking at the possibility of local vendors to provide some of the goods and services that those operations are going to need. Secondly, is that we anticipate that a lot of the local businesses may have an opportunity to do business on Suffolk Downs property and on the casino property. And thirdly is we look at this as an opportunity for local businesses to obtain resources that will help further economic development in the community in terms of helping small businesses with marketing, with education, with training, seminars regarding how to grow your business. So we really see it in a much larger sense than just the cannibalization of small business, which I think is what people are claiming.
When I saw the promotional film put out by the proponents, they talked about spillover effects, more business at restaurants, except the restaurants in the video were in the North End. So I'm wondering, what are they getting at?
Well, I think they hope that this is also, sort of a regional boost to the economy. And so showing some of the restaurants that are outside the purview of the actual, casino resort would encourage others that this is good for the whole city of Boston. I mean, clearly the East Boston Chamber of Commerce has had a long collaboration with Suffolk Downs. I mean, they've been in the community for 77 years. And during that period of time, they have probably employed 3 generations of East Boston, families. And so it's not a sort of fly-by-night operation. I mean, they've been there, they've been supporting families in the community for many years. And so we anticipate that they will, in fact, they will be required by the legislation to come to the Gaming Commission after a referendum that basically supports it is passed, with a plan, a specific plan of how they're going to support, protect, and enhance small business in the communities in which they are located.
I want to ask you about the transportation effect. The proponents have an idea to ease some of the expected traffic congestion. It's called the flyover, because I guess you can take the northbound side of Route 1A and have that sort of jump over the area where people might be spinning off to go to the casino. What do you think of that so far?
Well, I think one thing that Suffolk Downs has said is that this proposed project will actually make roadway improvements that might not otherwise be made, because it's going to cost in the vicinity of $40 million. So that's for starters. They wanted to look at ways in which they could deal with not only potential problems that might be generated by the facility, but also existing problems. So with that being said, everyone who lives in that area, whether it's East Boston, Chelsea, Winthrop, or the North Shore, know that northbound traffic in the coming home in the evening is just horrendous to deal with. So what they did was over the last 3 years, they've been using VHB Inc., which is one of the largest transportation consultants in New England, to help them study the intersection, to study ways in which they can address not only the problems between Boardman and 1A, but also Tomasello Drive, which is the street that leads into the casino. Because not only do they want to keep their patrons happy coming and going, but they want to make sure that patrons of the casino do not use the neighborhood streets to get around easily, and rather than stay on the major highways. So the flyover, the idea of the flyover is to keep people going, northbound without any problems. And plus, when you're coming up from Boardman Street, that's where the logjam is created. A lot of stopping and starting and lights and whatever. So what this does is it keeps the traffic flowing, out of Boardman Street, which is a lot of East Boston, Winthrop people, maybe onto 1A going north or 1A going south. So with the flyover, I think what they hope to accomplish is to loosen up the logjam, keep the traffic flowing north, but also providing transportation measures that would allow people to get into Orient Heights and into the casino without much problem.
And what about the amount of disruption from building this? Because it looks great if it's finished, but in the interim, what do you think? Absolutely.
And so what they're telling us is that they will actually acquire land on the northbound side, which is where they will, confine the construction so that 1A itself will not actually experience any disruption. They were asked, well, why don't you do a flyover on both sides? And the problem with the southbound side was that, number one, the gradation, the slope down on the southbound side is very significant, which would require much more engineering and construction than normal. Secondly, is they didn't want to really have to take any businesses on the southbound side. And thirdly, building the northbound flyover would only take 18 months, whereas building flyovers on both sides or doing significant construction on the southbound side could take up to 3 years. So I think that with all those reasons they considered, I think that this plan may work best.
The reports on the effect on crime, I read the story in the Herald this morning, and it sounds as if there's a lot of confusion. What's the expectation from this? Is this going to be a problem? Is it going to make things better, or what?
Well, Massachusetts is the 39th state to authorize casino gambling. So there are 30 other states from which they can learn the best practices for dealing with potential problems, crime problems that could be generated by a casino operation, and that's what they're doing right now. In addition to that, they've hired Paul Evans, and both you and I know Paul was police commissioner in Boston for 10 years. As the director of security and compliance. And his job is to make sure that they address the potential problems that could be generated by a casino. And to that end, he's been meeting with local law enforcement in Revere, Winthrop, Chelsea, and East Boston to make sure that they can put together a plan that really is proactive as opposed to reactive. And in addition to that, he is making a tour of the Caesar casinos around the country to see the kind of best practices that they put into effect. So clearly, they actually cite casinos in Bensalem, Pennsylvania, in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, where actually the crime statistics went down. So we're hoping that they're going to roll out their whole public safety plan to us as well, because the components that they're rolling out include the design of the establishment, the traffic plan, the public safety issues, the business partnerships that they hope, and I believe maybe a couple of others as well. But so we're expecting to see a major plan from them.
All right, thank you very much for being with us.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. It's great to be here.
All right, that was Diane Modica from the East Boston Chamber of Commerce.